G'day and welcome to Next Wave Conversations presented by Innovate GPT, where we're igniting the sparks of today's ideas for tomorrow's reality with generative AI. My name is Chris Lukianenko and I'm your host on this journey through the world of generative AI. And today's episode, we have the pleasure of hosting two extraordinary minds from GPT Strategic. First, we have Rynoe Breytenbach, a visionary who, with his vast tech business experience, is navigating the complexity of AI, transforming businesses with his innovative approach. And alongside him is Dave Phung, the chief disruptor, whose diverse background spans from corporate giants like GE and PlayStation to innovative startups. Dave's expertise in design thinking and his passion for disruptive technology have been instrumental in shaping the GPT Strategic business, and they are doing some great work in making groundbreaking AI solutions. So join us as we explore their journey, the synergy of their roles, and the future of AI in enterprise. Get ready for this. There's a lot to cover today. Oh, that was a big intro. Thanks, ChatGPT. Obviously, you guys have got an amazing background because it didn't want to stop at the 30 seconds that I told it to do for an introduction. We've got a fair bit in there. So welcome aboard, guys.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for coming.
Great to be here.
Here under the lights. It's very warm in this place today. So we'll try and best to get through this. So I've given up my comfy couch for the two of you today. This is my first two-person interview. But I'm more than happy to do so because I think this chat's going to be really awesome. So, Rynoe, you are one of the founders of the business, correct? But your title is nowhere near as cool as Dave's chief disruptor. I'm sorry.
That is true.
That is true. So, Rynoe, you go first. Tell me what you get up to within the business.
Yeah, Chris. So, as a co-founder of a business, you wear many, many different hats. Yep. And, I'm sort of more focused on sort of growth and innovation within the business.
Yep.
And, one day I'm got a marketing hat on, the next day an operations hat on, the next day a sales hat on. But that's the kind of stuff you have to do as a startup, right? Roll the sleeves up, and where the work needs to be done, that's where you get stuck into.
Yeah.
And a big part of it as well is, making sure you bring the right people into the company as well, because there's areas where you just have to let people do things autonomously. You've got to trust them with the task at hand. And, it's been a pretty good recipe so far.
Yeah, nice. Now, Dave, chief disruptor, don't take this the wrong way, but it sounds like something from a Marvel or a DC universe has been cast aside as a superhero name and been given to you. What do you do?
It is. Look, we work hard, but we don't take ourselves too seriously. And on a personal level, I love disruptive technology for its ability to nudge businesses into a new level of performance. And day to day, my role is about facilitating conversations with customers to understand their goals and ambitions and how generative AI might slot in there and move things forward for them. So that's what disruption means in a positive way, for us. I
was going to say the two of you are probably a bit of a yin and yang combo, but of course you've also got Andrew, the other co-founder, who can you have a three-way yin yang? I don't know. Don't know if that works, but
it seems to be working. It's definitely we lean into each other's strengths and weaknesses, and
excellent.
We have some really interesting conversations because Andrew and I would be talking about, business-related issues, and he'll be concerned about certain things. I'm like, I'm not worried about that at all. I think we've got that covered, but I'm worried about X, Y, and Z. And he's like, don't worry, I've got that covered. So between us, we are, well, in that case, everything's taken care of.
All good.
So it's it's nice to know that there's someone who can sort of catch the ball when you potentially can't, and vice versa. So you've got this complete trust and things work.
Yeah.
So
now you guys have both had great careers, founded companies, yada yada yada, worked in startups. What was it about GPT Strategic that made you think, I want to get in, roll my sleeves up, get dirty, do all the hard stuff again? What was the attraction?
There's a few things that have taken place over my career, and I worked for two very successful startups, and they both got onto a wave when SharePoint was a really big new thing.
Yes.
And what you can do within SharePoint. And that was a beautiful wave for those companies to ride. Got a lot of buy-in from Microsoft as well, because there's a big sort of play within that ecosystem, and both of those vendors got recognized through their efforts in terms of what they were doing in that ecosystem. And when Andrew and I were looking at the other business and trying to leverage more AI, because we already had algorithms built into the previous product or platform. We wanted to do more with AI, and we just weren't sure exactly how we were going to get that right. And then when ChatGPT came to the market, we realized, well, hang on a second, this is the answer we'd be looking for.
Yep.
But rather than have it focus in the one area that we were looking at that time, which is more around sales, discipline, and qualifying large enterprise deals, we then realized we can actually deliver AI capability, Gen AI capability, across multitude of different departments in organizations. Cool piece of technology. And it reminds me of when I worked in network storage, when people were for the first time connecting different levels in the building, different branch offices, from Melbourne to Sydney and Perth. That was the big wave, and that was all around the networking side of things.
Yep. I'm sorry, but the Gen AI is a little more sexy than
well, exactly. So you find this one technology that you go, hang on, this is truly groundbreaking. Given that we've been on the cusp of other big waves, this far outstrips everything that I've seen to date in my short.
What about you, Dave? Why did you jump in?
So if we rewind all the way back to 2016, which is about 75 years ago, if I'm not mistaken, I was working on a project. I was working on a project with one of the big airlines, and we were trying to build bots with really basic natural language processing tools and really basic
look up time
machine learning. Yeah, let's not say that. But, on the surface, from a customer perspective, it was deployed on the site. It was good. You could ask questions, and the concept was fantastic, right? From the point of view of scaling customer service, from the point of view of addressing, common customer queries, but the technology didn't really work. And then, fast forward to 2022, was it November, give or take? GPT came around, I started playing with it, and the lights immediately switched on for me. I was like, wow, this is very, very significant. It's transformative like nothing in 70 years of computing history has ever seen, right? From the point of view of its ability to quickly, accurately summarize, find, articulate. So, I saw the lights flick on quickly, and I thought, oh, wow, I've got to get involved in this in some way, shape, or form. So, that was my very quick sort of decision. Like, I'm going to do that.
Speaking of speed, things are moving very quickly for the business. There's a lot of moving parts. Some people might find that a little bit stressful. Some people might find that energizing. I myself, I love the whole ideation process and that sort of thing. Where do you guys sit on the scale of stressful through to excited?
I think there's a pretty healthy mix there. Very, very exciting. Every day is, there's new things happening, new challenges, a new news article, a new report, and a lot of it validates a lot of our thinking and a lot of the direction that we're driving the company in. One thing we try to do is just stay focused, because it's very easy to get distracted.
Chasing that shiny thing around.
Correct.
Yes.
Correct. Right. So you really got to decide, okay, well, what is core to our business? Let's evaluate the things on the periphery, but let's not get distracted from the main thing that we're trying to do.
So what is the core to the business? Now you've mentioned that.
So the core to the business is really being able to put Gen AI in the hands of our clients who are understanding that there's a need for this technology in their business, but they don't know where to get started. Okay, so the big focus is get as much Gen AI capability of this new technology in the hands of the people that can really benefit from seeing those efficiencies in their business as to, large, you have a nice way of putting it, sort of volume tasks. So shove that onto bots to do so that people can do their more high value
I like that
work.
Dave, what's the driver for these companies you're working with? Is it a mix of fear? If I don't do this, somebody's going to do it before me and then potentially not lose my business, but I'll probably see it pretty much a downturn? Or is there like, well, this is cool, I want to get in there and get, have a crack?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think the answer is it depends. But typically I see this, decision life cycle from getting dazzled by the technology, then you sort of go down the proverbial rabbit hole, and then somewhere along the way they'll get overwhelmed and get stuck. And that's where we typically would like to enter the conversation. And to pick up on Rynoe's point before, companies often see this as a very transformative technology. They see it as one that's going to disrupt their industry, the people that work for them, the tasks that they perform, but they're often not sure where to start, right? And for us, that's a perfect scenario because they've recognised the value and importance of the technology from a criticality point of view, but also that they've taken the first step toward deployment, first step toward change. And to tackle your question a bit more directly, the typical scenario is productivity. People think it's going to be, but productivity is the easy on-ramp for most because people understand what that is, right?
Yeah.
And it's about saving time. It's about finding things faster. And if you zoom out, you could almost think about generative AI as knowledge management 3.0, right? Because knowledge management 1 was get lots of organizational data into the one place, right? Then from there, it was, start to find it better, start to sort things better. And then, more tools came along that made knowledge management better, right? So somewhere along the way between, knowledge management 1, there was knowledge management 2, which was tools like Notion and Coda and those sort of things that sort of made knowledge into workspaces. And generative AI takes that even one step further to, let's call it knowledge management 3, which is about being able to query, but also abstract and articulate based on organizational knowledge, right? And that's much more than productivity, right? That's much, much more than productivity. Because productivity is kind of, in many ways, of looking backward, right? And drawing insights and conclusions and so forth from stuff that already exists, right? Where I believe the real value is going to exist is looking forward with what you know, right? Your organization's proprietary data, combining it with publicly available information, combining it with some human input and prompting and shaping to forecast what's going to happen from here on out. That's where the real value, I think, is going to be realized from people deploying AI solutions now.
Hey, Rynoe, before we started this chat, I said to you that I'm never the biggest brain in this conversation. I think Dave's proving that, 9 minutes into this conversation.
You and I agree that both of us fall in that category.
Hey, that is great.
There's nothing like baseless confidence, by the way.
Hey, look, back in the day, I used to work in beer marketing. We used to have this thing called the Forex Gold Epiphany, which was basically you go out and have a few beers on the night. You'd have a good time, but you were drinking mid-strength beer. And your epiphany was when you woke up in the morning with a clear head, thought, well, I had a great night and I haven't got a hangover. What is the equivalent in this space here where some of the clients you're working with, what is their epiphany moment where they realise that, oh, wow, I think this thing could do something for my business?
There's been a couple of those moments, and it's difficult to pinpoint, but there's definitely one of them was, like we touched on it earlier, is you always have, whenever there's new technology, there's always naysayers.
Yes.
Okay. So we early on decided that, okay, we're not going to get into the business of education. There's enough education taking place on the market. Mm-hmm. There's enough information to consume, and businesses out there will be educating themselves.
Yep.
And they'll come to a conclusion whether this is the technology that's going to help them or not help them. We're not there to convince them because we can spend countless hours trying to convince people this is here to stay and it's going to be beneficial. But if they're not ready, you're banging your head against a brick wall. So early on, we decided that we're not in the business of education. We engage with a customer. There's a very, very easy question that says, do you use ChatGPT or not?
Yep.
And the ones that says, no, we haven't really looked at it, or it's a fad, it'll pass. Easy qualification out. Because if you don't understand the value of what this technology holds for you,
yep, then
there's really no point to pursue that conversation.
Yep.
So it really helped us just cut through getting in front of customers that really understand that this is something they need, and then where we can help with that. So that I would say that is one moment where we just realized that we're not in the market of education. The market will self-educate, if that's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
But then also, just to come back on the point that Dave made before, we've been in the space for quite some time. So the last 15 years, let's say, process automation has been a really big part of how people work. Mm-hmm. Different workflow vendors, different workflow products. And people got used to, the productivity workers got used to, there's certain tech that helps automate process. I think the Gen AI component adds another layer to it where it now starts to think for itself and puts you in a much better position to take that process automation to the next level. So it's really exciting to see how that whole component is going to be growing as well, because that's something that people became used to, but now it's you can now gear that up to a whole different level.
Yeah. Look, you've been working with quite a few clients in the last 12 months or so. Without giving any trade secrets, what are some of the things that you're working on with your clients that, others that are listening might, have maybe that epiphany moment or think, I could maybe do that?
I'll touch on one, and Dave's got a couple of good examples as well. So we do work with a specific customer who are in the business of writing bits.
Yep.
And they had a moment of realization where this new technology can potentially put them out of business.
So they had that fear moment.
They had that fear moment, right? The timeline around exactly when that will happen, undetermined. It could be 5 years, could be less, could be a little bit more. But there was definitely a realization that this tech can basically overtake what we do as a business.
Yep.
So they've got 20 or 30 years worth of experience and IP in that space.
Wow.
So they've gone, well, hang on, we've got something of real value because we've been building this business over the last 30 years. How do we take the knowledge that we have and turn that into a platform or a product or a software as a service or something where we can build the Gen AI layer into it and we remain relevant? We take that first step. So we're innovative in that sense. That's the customer's viewpoint, obviously. And we remain relevant and we can continue growing the business, continue being profitable, and we will continue to grow as a business in time.
Yep.
So that's been a really interesting one because, again, there was no education there. That customer had the realization, and we just happened to meet at the perfect time where we have a problem, and I think you guys can help us solve it. And that was a beautiful match. Beautiful clients to work with. So it's been a very, very exciting project.
Yeah, cool. Dave, anything from you, mate?
Yeah, look, we've the one that's freshest in my mind, and let me just set the scene, right? So it's a fairly large, it's an ASX-listed company with 3,000 staff, 6 different cities around the world. Annual turnovers just shy of 10 billion people. So it's a complex enough of an organization. We're working with a reporting function that's a central one. And just by way of example, a typical task that they would receive would be the managing director of the American business wants a analysis of a certain product category for their 18 to 25-year-old male in North America, just by way of example. And that typically would take them about 3 days-ish, give or take, sifting through literally 1,200-ish reports that sit on SharePoint and people's emails and, Joe, and you got to speak to Mary, and then Jack over there you got to have a chat to as well just to make sure he's okay with the data and all that sort of stuff. And we've prototyped a bot for that particular use case or that particular task. And that now takes about 3 seconds, right? If your Wi-Fi is down, it could be 5.
Wow.
But we're starting to see some real serious productivity gains, right? And that's just the start, right? Yeah. And what we've found is 2 things that were quite, I guess, surprising in a good way. 2 things. One is that solving that particular use case partially solved someone else's use case, one of the downstream, upstream, processes. Because someone has to hand off somewhere else, right? No business function exists in a vacuum.
Yep.
So that was the first thing. The second thing we found was that, not only did it produce the results faster, it was actually higher quality because it was based on fact, right? It wasn't open to interpretation, right? There was, let's call it 3 to 5 reports used in creating that summary. And those reports, typically 100 to 200 pages. And it was the bot that we built only referenced the data, the information and the fact that was in those reports, right? There was no human interpretation involved in the creating of the summary that was passed on to the managing director of the American business, just for that example. And so, speed, high quality, immediately was delivered. We see so many companies get stuck in analysis mode, right? Evaluating and trying to crystal ball, what's going to be bundled with their existing technology stack, what's going to be released by this product at a future point in time, and so on and so forth. What I encourage people to do now is just to extract the value that exists with the tools that are available today, right? There's no point trying to figure out.
Because there is a lot of value to be had right out of the box, really, isn't there? Yeah. But what you're talking about here is obviously a private data model, which is where a lot of the power is. How do you talk about that with clients? Because that's a next step. I'm not just typing something to Chat GPT and referencing publicly available data. I've got privacy issues potentially with the data, all that sort of stuff. How do you talk about that?
That was an interesting something we observed in the market as well, because, and I go back to the days where you were issued a company laptop and you were issued a company. When we walked around with two phones, your personal phone,
that's right,
the company phone, and your personal laptop and your company laptop.
Yep.
Where did you have the cool tools? On your personal phone, because you could download any app that you wanted to use on your phone, on your laptop, but work restricted you in terms of what you were able to do and not do. And that's why they issued you with a company issue equipment. Then there was a change because there's all these little apps and things that make life a lot easier for you. And you wanted to bring that into your everyday life at home and at work. So companies then had a look and said, okay, well, what if we do a BYOD? Well, bring your own device. And guess what? There weren't any real big issues with that, because they made sure that from a security standpoint, things are secure and you can steal information off the laptop and all those things that they sort of implemented to make sure that it's still safe. No one's breaking the rules. If you use your personal device, you still sign up to the company policy in terms of what you can and can't do, but you can download apps and all the rest of it. So we're kind of seeing that happening again, because people are now using Chat GPT in their day-to-day, right? So fathers are writing wedding speeches
I love that.
using Chat GPT. There's so many examples of where it's being used in your daily life. But
you guys are obviously using Chat GPT to dress exactly the same.
We do. It sort of tells us in the morning what's the schedule like, and this is what we need to look like at certain times in the day. But basically, now companies are telling their employees that you're not allowed to use Chat GPT, because we've now we've heard the horror stories. But you go, well, hang on, if we can use this in my day-to-day life and I can use it at work, I'll be so much better at my job and all the rest of it. So there's that moment where they go, well, hang on, how can we introduce Gen AI into the business without putting ourselves or our customers or employees at risk? Right, and that's where the private large language model comes into play, and that's what we can deliver. So that's where we get real cut through with clients too, is we'll give you that capability, but it's safe and secure. It's your own environment. And you have the capability as you would in your open source tools.
Can I head over to the big brain now? Because obviously once you've got that data in...
We've got to find them first.
Once you've got it into that model and the private thing, and you have the same sorts of abilities that ChatGPT gives you with public data, tell me about the training. Because everyone talks about, we've got to train them to do this and do that. I actually don't even understand what that means.
I mean, in simple terms, what we do is two things, right? We build private language models and we build custom interfaces. That's kind of it, right? And I always say to people that using general purpose models and general purpose interfaces can't solve business specific problems, right? So that's probably the starting point. And what we mean by building custom models and building private models is really leveraging the value that exists with your company's most valuable asset, and that's your intellectual property.
Yes,
right? And if you sort of take that one step further, what is your intellectual property? It's your PowerPoint slides, your PDFs, all the annual reports, all the information that's captured somewhere digitally, hopefully, in your organization, right? And if you could capture that and build a model that can read and understand and interpret and give employees answers based on that, that's the value that can be extracted from private language models. And when we say training, it's simply taking what we call a foundational model. So, for example, OpenAI's ChatGPT 4, a foundational model, and overlaying onto that your company's intellectual property. And then training simply refers to the, for want of a better word, ingesting of your company's proprietary data on top of the foundational model, and in front of that is a custom interface for your employees to access it. That's pretty much it. Yeah,
and that custom interface. We talk about writing better prompts and those sorts of things. Those prompts are tailored by you guys to make sure you ask for things in the right way, so you don't get that random kind of response coming back. Yeah,
that's exactly right. Yeah. So I mean, typically people think of generative AI as chat, right? And that's fine. I think that's because of ChatGPT training the entire world.
Yes,
this is what generative AI is. And that's a bit of a misnomer, right? In a production and a sort of an at-scale deployment, I wouldn't recommend chat as an interface to anyone, and primarily because you shift a lot of the onus on being able to ask good questions and construct good prompts to the user. Right? And there's a lot of variability in that, right? Everyone that all three of us would ask the same question that has the same intent differently. Right? And as an organization, you want to control the consistency and that variability so that your employees get the right answer, right, in a repeatable manner. So chat is not good for that. There are different ways to deliver that interface. It could be buttons and sliders and various other things, or it could be a reactive, a proactive one where it's information delivered at a certain time to a certain person via a certain channel based on certain triggers. So it needed to be a chat interface.
And that's where people might get a little confused about all this sort of thing. It's not like you guys have got this private data set over here and you just say, go and point your ChatGPT at that. There's actual smarts under the hood where you're actually getting into the black screen of coding and all that sort of thing to start to build some of that stuff out as a little bit more of a robust and personalised, bespoke solution for those clients. Yeah,
that's right. Yeah.
The other angle there as well is you still got to have the human element as part of the process.
Yes,
because when you actually know what information you want to retrieve, you just don't know where to find it. Right? So you start asking the question. So it gives you your answer. There's the report, or there's the findings, or now you read through it, you go, okay, we're almost on the right track here. This is good, but I know that there's more. So you just change your line of questioning a bit, and you get a bit more info until all 3 or 4 or 5 answers is a combination of everything that you want.
Yep.
You're not going to just take that one output and go, well, this is it, and be happy with it, and off you go. You still need the guy that sits there and goes, we're on the right track. Let me prompt it in a few different ways, and then I'll have a bit more information to play with and formulate the actual outcome that I want.
That iteration type process, is that a form of training itself? Because I know I've worked with the image creators and sort of thing, and I get an image, like, no, give me more of this or give me less of that sort of thing. Is that a really important part of working with your clients on that?
Absolutely, it is, yeah. I mean, between what's captured digitally and what exists between people's ears, there's typically a gap, right?
Yeah.
So that process of refinement is necessary to yield the right result from a quality improvement point of view. And a lot of our work is actually in the refinement of the output in terms of its accuracy, completeness, relevance. There's deploying a solution is one thing, but the ongoing improvement is significantly more important in terms of expanding its access to knowledge. Like what data does it have? Things change, right? A new report comes out, a new website, new article. It changes the information. It changes what is correct. And secondly, what is a good output will change over time as well. Like how verbose or how succinct it might be. It depends on the role, perhaps. It could depend on the context of the question. If it's for an annual report versus an email, you want different content for different scenarios, and all of that comes into the equation when you talk about training and retraining and that iterative process of improving your models. So,
this is all new ground for everybody, basically. It's old, but it's new.
Yeah,
and it's changing the way people work and all that sort of thing. I've been told recently, go and learn about prompt engineering and all that sort of thing, because in the future, just like you had to learn using Excel or PowerPoint, this is going to be another one of those tools that everybody's going to have to learn. What do you guys think in terms of the hot jobs in and around this sort of industry are going to be moving forward?
That is a very good question.
Thank you.
We
finally.
We're full of compliments, aren't we? So we're going to see some very interesting roles evolve. But if I think back to a couple of years, I spoke about the process automation side of things. I worked with one of the large global companies, and they had a workflow center of excellence. So they amassed a team of people that had to start managing the proliferation of the process automation across the business. Yep. So instead of each person just doing their own thing, they said, listen, let's bring it to somewhere central. We established a team, and they managed everything from that center of excellence. So I can see similar things happening. We will have a Gen AI center of excellence, or the AI center of excellence within the business. Different functions within that to manage where these bots are, what they are doing, who's, so there'll be some company compliance. There'll be the prompt engineering. I've already heard interesting figures being thrown around by how much these guys and girls are getting paid as prompt engineers, because that's a new role, and already there's people with expertise in that. Imagine in such a short space of time, there's people that have now built expertise that they can demand some pretty high salaries around. Hey, I am a qualified prompt engineer. Yeah, and we're going to see many more of these types of roles. Some of them we can't even think of right now, but there will be many of these types of roles coming up. So it's going to be a very interesting space. It's going to be a brand new economy within this tech world we've been used to for the last, 30 odd 40 years, right?
So, obviously this is new and all that sort of stuff. What's the North Star for GPT Strategic? Like, where is this thing going? Like, it's only 12 months old or thereabouts, but you've had a pretty fast start. How much bigger could this thing get for you guys?
We did some analysis. You look at market potential and the addressable market. All those classic markers. But basically, I can't see any business being operational without this level of new technology within the organization somewhere. Yep. So for us, the sky really is the limit here, and that's a very exciting prospect. But again, we just got to stay focused. We can't chase after everything that's out there.
Yes. Yeah.
We just want to be really specific in terms of how we engage, what we do, the quality of work that we deliver. But for us, it's going to, I think we've only just seeing the very, very, very small tip of the iceberg here. It's going to explode. I personally get very excited about the projects that we'll be engaging with customers on.
Yep.
I think we're going to see some very, very unique use cases, things that we can't even think about right now. But as part of the process we go through and uncovering some of our customers' sort of, the issues they're facing or where they want to take the business, what's stopping them, we're going to come up with some really interesting use cases. And if we rewind the tape from today, if we look at a year from now, we look back at this point in time, I'd like to sit here and tell you about some of the most amazing use cases that we've been working on that right now we can't see, but we know that they're there and they exist.
And of course, the chief disruptor will be a first-tier Marvel character.
That's it.
That's one. Yeah, it's spot on.
That is it.
I love to have a bit of a laugh and like this because we are dealing with some really huge topics here, but I do enjoy the lighter side. Out of all of this stuff you guys have been going through, the one thing I want to know is, are you still having fun?
Oh, I wouldn't be here.
You didn't delayed. You're waiting for him to answer.
I was waiting for Dave to answer.
I was just like, hell yeah.
Yeah.
No, I wouldn't be here if I wasn't having fun, right?
Sure.
I mean, life is very short. So if you're not having fun, you've got to maybe figure something out. I envisage a scenario where us as a business, on behalf of clients, manage a whole virtual workforce of bots. I'm starting to see some signals of that already, right? Yeah. Just if I was to elaborate on the previous example of that reporting one, right? Who asked for that reporting? There's probably some degree of AI-related automation in that because it's probably to make a decision. What decision needs to be made? And backwards, and you sort of work backwards from that point and you work forwards from that point. There's all these tasks that exist across the organization. If you can pull that thread together, it'd be incredible to see what's possible and see how far it could be taken, right? Because it's not just a chat, right? Ultimately, something somewhere will land in the end customer's queue, right? Email, SMS, WhatsApp, whatever it might be. But if you could build that thread out, it'd be fascinating to see what's possible, right?
Yeah. I think the thing that excites me about this sort of space is like we've all got areas of expertise here, but we're not experts about everything. I love the idea of being able to discover someone who's got an area of expertise and that's like really quite niche. And that very, very niche thing, you can then make it better for them.
I can share a very, very recent example of engineering firm based in Sydney, electrical engineering, and the gentleman who owned the business comes up to me and says, "Hey, Dave, I've got this scenario. I don't know if Gen AI can help with, because it's one of those things where every problem's a nail, and everything's a sort of a generative AI hammer right now, it seems." And he says to me, "Dave, we've got 2 senior engineers who are 90% of the company's intellectual property. They're going to retire in about 3 years' time, tops. Can generative AI solve for that? Because at the moment, we're just capturing all their knowledge in a Word document. Like, I can tell you now, no one's going to read that Word document, so don't do that." And I suggested, well, why don't we just get them on a Teams call, ask them all the questions that your most junior person would ask them, and just capture that, upload the transcript into ChatGPT, and produce a succinct summary. Right,
maybe my brain is a little bit bigger than I thought, because I was going down that same track thinking of that conversion would be amazing.
Yeah, because we've all seen the Word documents that are 200 pages with a table of contents that are all hyperlink broken, that never see the light of day after it's approved, right? So
it's like too long, don't read, into a whole bunch of insights that can help someone.
That's it.
Yeah, but it just goes to how accessible the technology is right now.
Yeah.
And this electrical engineering firm that I would never have encountered had it not been for an industry event, and how not only how I guess solvable, if that's a word, the problems are today. Yeah, it's got letters in it. It's got a good word. And not only how solvable they are today, but how accessible the tools are to solve those problems right now. And at very low barriers to entry, you can solve very, very tricky problems, right?
Yeah. So does it sound like he's having fun?
I think it does. And look, it's,
definitely.
We obviously chatted before here today. You guys have got lots of ideas buzzing around. There's so much potential in what you're doing. The one thing I don't think we have solved yet is the pitch. What's the one-line tagline that GPT Strategic stands for? If only we could get ChatGPT to do that for us, because I think that's sometimes hard as someone who's from outside of this world that we're operating in right now. When someone says to you, "What do you do in one line?" You've got like the 10-second elevator pitch. Like, how do you explain that? Because I think you crack that, you're going to have the customers flooding to you.
You know, that's an evolving process. And I think the latest one is something along the lines of, we build bots, and we build enterprise-grade, secure AI solutions.
Ding! The elevator's here.
So that's kind of what we lean towards. The one thing we're not a systems integrator. Yep. We're leaning more towards the creative side of building these bots or these Gen AI solutions for you, and we can have a lot of fun within that. And so far it's resonated. But again, we'll go through an evolution, and what you see today may look different in 12 months or even 6 months' time. But at the same time, Chris, having a huge amount of fun. Every morning when you get up, there's a whole list of things that need doing, but none of them's that daunting, because we're also surrounded by some really, really good people within the team. And typically the answer is somewhere within the brain's trust in terms of how we solve the next thing, or how do we address this next problem, or where do we go to next, or I read an interesting article, why don't we leverage that and sort of bring some of that expertise into the business. So heaps of fun. But the main thing is we're a core group of people that we're very lucky to be surrounded with in terms of the things we do and what we deliver, the clients we work with. So, it's for us, it's a great place to be right now.
Yeah, it's fast paced. I think one of the things I love at the moment is getting up in the morning, checking whether it's Twitter, my LinkedIn, or TikTok, for what's happened overnight on the other side of the globe that's just been launched, or someone's discovered something. Yeah. And just about every single day, and right now I get pinged up and I've got a message on WhatsApp or whatever from a friend saying, "Have you seen this?" Yes. It's like, on a day-to-day basis. How good is that?
It's fantastic. It is fantastic. I mean, what was the last one? Is it called Sora?
Sora. Oh,
wow. By text to video, you can change it into video. And I mean, it's very early days, but already you can see where that is going to go, right? Yep. So, and again, that's why I say you've got to keep focused, because there's all these cool things you can chase after, and you can get distracted very easily. So you've got to, and there's discipline in that. It's very easy to not look at the shiny thing and get distracted. So there's a bit of discipline and work in applying that.
Nice. Well, I think you guys are very fortunate to be having such a well-established business in this space, because there's so much stuff going on. It's just great. Gents, thanks for joining me together on the couch today. It's been a great chat. look forward to seeing what happens with you guys in the future.
Been great hanging out with you, Chris. We'll
Thanks
do
for
it
having
again, and maybe at that point we'll have some other exciting customer stories to talk about. So
Or that 10-second tagline. That's what I'm challenging you with.
That's it.
Good on you.
Awesome.
Cheers, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chris.